Cloud. So yeah, first and foremost, we're just going to get right into the slide deck and kind of work through this information. So without further ado, let's pull up this beauty here. And yeah, spent a good chunk of time putting this together. So this is going to be very clear cut, itemized, organized. So if y'all want to take screenshots as you're working through it, feel free. If you'd like to also get the recording, there will be one after the call so that you can review it multiple times. And yeah, that's really the key. So what we're focusing on is daily income producing activities. And IPA, it doesn't mean India Pale Ale. It's not a kind of beer, although that is also what the acronym stands for. Is the income producing activity, which is the more interesting acronym to me. So you want to structure daily income producing activities and personal development for maximum results. So obviously personal development, like I mentioned, it isn't directly an IPA. However, it is tied to your income. Your level of income is never going to far exceed your level of personal development. And even if your income takes a lucky jump and it goes past your level of personal development, it always finds a way of coming back down to where you are. So know that's a lifelong, never-ending journey. You never got it, you're always getting it. And that's kind of an important frame and mindset to have when considering this information. So we're going to be really starting off, of course, with IPAs and then going into KPIs, but you got to understand what income producing activities even are. And you got to establish a clear cut daily method of operation and what are your non negotiables. So I'm going to dive into that more deep in the following slides, but you really want to prioritize effective strategies, the tools, systems that we already have in place. There's a reason why we do things the way that we do. It's not random. We're not trying to figure it out as we go and pivoting and changing a bunch of things with our system. It works, period. There's a reason why there's 500 plus in the Telegram and a lot of people winning at a high level on the trading side and building the business. It's because the systems work. The question is, do you work? But if you do put in the work, you do what's required, obviously the systems are going to work for you. So it's a matter of leveraging those and properly time blocking. So actually properly time blocking and organizing your calendar is actually a superpower, I'm convinced, because if you do this effectively, you're never going to leave anything to chance. You're never going to be guessing. You're never going to be racking your brain trying to remember when you booked a call. So it is really something that's impactful and important and something that all of y'all need to dial in. And before I even continue, how many of you either use a Gmail or like an Apple calendar to kind of like systemize and to keep your calendar and your schedule in terms of appointments, live sessions, meetings, whatever the case may be? Who here uses either Gmail or Apple Calendar? Drop like a one in the chat, just so I got an idea of who I'm talking to. Because if y'all already have this set up, there's quite a few I can share on the call that's really going to help you with those two systems in particular. Okay, most people are on a calendar. Appreciate you, JP. Just trying to stay fresh, man. Mental notes. Okay, got you. So we're going to change all of that because so I want y'all to write this down. Memory is fallible. Memory is completely fallible. You can't count on it. I don't care if you've been listening to Kevin Trudeau's mega memory course, whatever the case is, you can't count on your memory for really important calls, decisions, whatever the case is. Like you need to have clear cut notes, clear cut systems. Your calendar needs to be automated if you have a scheduling system in terms of like a booking link and so much more. So we're going to dive into that. So first things first, you got to understand what the heck is an IPA? Okay, what exactly are income producing activities? So it's essentially income producing activities are tasks that directly generate revenue or sales for a business or individual. All right, whatever contributes towards that bottom line. So examples of IPAs would include sale calls, client follow-ups, product presentations, closing deals, taking trade scanner ideas, launch webinars, opportunity calls. I didn't add this to the slide deck, but onboardings would also be considered an IPA when you're getting a new member started. Because number one, you're keeping them in the business long term by giving them a clear cut game plan, doing BAM FAM, which is book a meeting from every call that you run. And the way that I run it, everybody does it a little bit differently, but the way that I run it is we have next actionable steps from each call. And if those next actionable steps aren't completed from call to call, I know who I'm going to be hopping on less calls with. It's just the truth. My time is valuable, and you should value your time as well. And you need to run with the runners and people that are gonna, sprint with you, people that are buying into what you're sharing with them, and not walk with the walkers. You can't push a dead bear up a tree, but you can climb a tree with the bear that's willing. So it's the exact same deal here. That's in between, obviously, check-in, game plan calls, etc. And the distinction from non-revenue tasks is, whatever is in an IPA would be administrative or non-revenue generating tasks, such as, paperwork or scheduling, because those things can, number one, be delegated to either an AI or somebody that you trust, or, it's something that you could just do yourself. And if you ever add up all the time at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year that you're actually manually punching things in and scheduling it, you waste not even days, you waste weeks of your life, because that's a big part of the business. So if you have a way to automate it and also automate social media in different ways, Donnie showed me a great system, which I'm currently implementing, and JP is using as well. But there's a lot of different ways of going about it. We'll dive into that a little bit towards the tail end of the training, but you want to identify what are your high value versus low value tasks and prioritize accordingly. All right. So I'm going to add a caveat because this specification is important. A high value task to me might look different to what a high value task would be for you. So if your goal is to dial in the skill set of trading, investing, and eventually scaling like a funded account or your live account through PU Prime to multiple six figures and becoming an educator in trading and all this other stuff, well, your high value tasks are definitely different than mine. So all those things sound great. And those things are going to happen for me as a byproduct because of the way that I'm building. But that isn't exactly my priority. It's building the business, it's generating revenue, it's leading and helping develop the young core that I have with me to become the next leaders, so I can pass down the torch and feel comfortable with who I've left the organization with. So ultimately, success is succession. That's what is really important to me, among many other things. So obviously, my high value tasks are going to look different than the next person. And low value tasks are, like I mentioned, everything that was on the previous slide. Scheduling, personal development when you're doing too much of it. There's some of you on the call that are probably guilty of this because we've all been there before. But at the end of the day, it's about prioritizing the high value tasks and obviously cutting the fat, and not putting so much of a focus on what isn't driving revenue, what isn't increasing productivity, what isn't, bringing your income to a different level, as well as those that you are working with. So time management and IPA prioritization is important to keep in mind because you want to schedule your IPAs. So this right here is a major, major, major nugget of gold. All right. Back when I was working, people say 9 to 5. I was doing like a 7 to like midnight. It wasn't a traditional 9 to 5. I was working 2 jobs when I first started building the business, and I came across this industry about almost 8 years ago now, seeing as how I'm going to be 28 in January. So, when I first came across this concept, I didn't know where to schedule my IPAs. Like, should I do it in the evening? Should I do it in the morning? Because I would have the trouble to wake up early enough because I was already going to work at 7 a.m. I was waking up at 5 a.m. So that means, I'd have to wake up at, 4:30, 4 a.m. to just prioritize these things. And mind you, I literally got off of work at 11 at night, midnight the day before. So how do you manage that while still getting enough sleep or, still having balance in your life? And the answer is simple. If you're looking to achieve extraordinary results, if you're looking to achieve massive success, there is no balance. You're all in and sprinting for periods. We call them 90-day sprints where you generate, big results trading, big results building the business, developing leaders, and then you can coast and, treat it like a marathon. So it's good to keep in mind you can designate periods of times that are going to be 90-day sprints, all out effort. And then from those results that you produced from that 90-day sprint, now it's time to develop the team, pour into them, and dial back a couple of things so that you can get ready for your next 90-day sprint. So that is one effective way to do it. However, what you can also do is you can just do it in the morning when your mind is sharp and fresh. So if that means waking up an hour earlier, then you need to wake up an hour earlier. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or ways around it because we all get the same 24 hours in a day. All right. That's one way in which we are all equal, but not everybody invests their 24 hours, in the same way. And it's what do you do with that time? How are you getting yourself ahead and separating yourself from the pack based off of how you invest your time? So those early mornings can be super, super impactful. And it's about minimizing interruptions. So now, I have a newborn, which is something to obviously like pivot and strategize a little bit differently in terms of when I'm working and when I'm doing certain things. But the mornings for me are when I'm going to be the most uninterrupted. So that's when I do my deep work. For those building the business on here, for those in the realm of sales, persuasion, influence, 10 calls before 10 a.m. to prospects has been a freaking life changer for me. 10 calls before 10 a.m. to prospects. And then a good practice as well is every single day talking to one or two different people on your team that you might not usually speak with. So those are two really good rules of thumb that you can follow. And for me, that's a non-negotiable. So I'm going to touch more on the non-negotiables after the fact, but 10 calls before 10 a.m., it has to be done because I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. Do you guys want to know the secret or should I just keep the sauce to myself? I don't know. What do y'all think? Drop like a fire emoji or a number or something, lucky number 7, if you want the sauce. Who wants? In terms of minimizing those interruptions and prioritizing your time, you need to really dial in those 10 calls before 10 a.m. But not only that, like the longer that you wait to pick up the phone, the heavier it gets. Yeah, the longer that y'all wait to pick up the phone is the heavier that it's going to get. Because ultimately, there we go. Can everybody hear me good now? Drop some in the chat. Yes, 1167. These kids. There we go. Yeah, I was trying to get the pause going again. But yeah, 10 calls before 10 a.m. Or you can make it simple. If you're not quite at a place where you have a lot of contacts, 10 DMs to warm market or cold market prospects before 10 a.m. is a really good IPA. Or for example, on the trading side, at least taking 2 trades during the New York and London session if there's favorable setups in the markets or you're leveraging the trade ideas. Whatever the case is, just having that consistency over time is going to make a huge difference because you got to look at it this way. If you make it a non-negotiable and you never miss a day, if you message 10 or call 10 people every single day, 7 days a week, that's 70 calls throughout that week, just in the morning. That's not even on top of what you do after work or whatever you do during your day. And then those 7 calls or those 7 days, the 70 calls, 70 times four, you got 140, 210. And then, you're going to obviously have close to 300 calls made by the end of the month just because you installed this non-negotiable into your schedule. And let's say you miss a day. We're human beings, right? You might miss a day. It happens, even if it's a non-negotiable. Just bounce back strong the next day. Here's a nugget of gold. Never allow one day of missing DMOs, daily methods of operations, or non-negotiables. Never allow it to stretch to 2 days in a row. All right. They say it takes 21 days to form a habit and 90 days to form a lifestyle. So have that same mentality, and it's something that's going to serve you very, very well. So obviously you should aim to focus on completing high value activities during that part of your day where you're least distracted. Like I said, early AM, ideally when your mind is the sharpest, or if you're working night shifts and for you that's in the afternoon when you wake up, make that the time where you dial in and you're uninterrupted. And if you have people in your life that are going to interrupt you during these times, communication is everything. All right. You got to explain that to them. This is my no time. You can't come interrupt me or, distract me with something unless somebody's dying, for lack of a better term. So, like I said, non-negotiables are high-value daily activities slash key performance indicators that must be completed by the end of the day. Zero exceptions. You do not want to negotiate with the highest version of yourself. All right. Because your schedule, the way that you're organizing things, your non negotiables, your daily method of operations, that's the highest version of yourself. All right. And if you show up, you do the work, you commit to what you had scheduled and laid out for yourself throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year, you're going to become the highest version of yourself. There's no way around it. And what's crazy about this game of growth, like you're not even going to recognize yourself the way that you were a year ago. You're going to change so much from year to year. That's just kind of how life works. You think that you know who you are, and then something happens and you gain experience and time passes, and you're now looking in the mirror at a completely different version of yourself. However, it's the exact same thing with the business. Is time going to promote you, or is time going to expose you? It always does one or the other. Time will always either promote or expose us, and it promotes the people that do not negotiate with the highest versions of themselves, the people that show up, commit to their non-negotiables, and they don't barter with their vision. Winners make it a habit to consistently finish their day only once all their DMOs and non-negotiable activities are completed. Their heads aren't in the pillow until they've earned it. So let me give y'all an example. When I first started off in this industry, when I was about like 19, 20, I met a guy. He was in the organization that I was in, but he was in the US in Sacramento. And this guy would literally sleep in his car. If he didn't at least get 10 new contacts that day, he would sleep in his car. So what do you think he'd do when he's at contact number 9? He would go to the gym that's 24 hours and go get a contact so he can go sleep in a nice warm bed and not his car. It's like, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want to achieve your goals? How bad do you really want to become the person that can provide for their family and break the generational curses? If you're not willing to do something like that, it's not bad enough that you want it. Even watching TV, having distractions, you should turn your TV around or unplug it and throw it out the window until you finally hit, 5K a month from the business, 10K a month from the business. Whatever your goal is, you need to sacrifice to achieve it. All right. I want y'all to write this down too. You have to give up in order to go up. You have to give up in order to go up. So look at it this way. On the training balance scale that KT touches on, there's the teachability and coachability index. All right. And your coachability index, one of the key determining factors are are you willing to go without something that you love, that you absolutely adore? Are you willing to go without that for an entire year so that you achieve your goal? Think about what you love the most. Is it golfing? Is it playing hockey with the boys? Is it going out on Fridays and Saturdays and getting wasted? What is it that you love? Are you willing to give that up for an entire year so that you can achieve your goal? And if the answer is no, then you don't want this bad enough, quite frankly. And guess what? I can't want this for you. I can't want you to achieve your goals and to become a success more than you want it for yourself. All right. So a massive vision and goal requires a massive level of self-discipline, sweat equity, and a maniacal focus. All right. If that's too much of a price for you to pay, settle for goals that make you comfortable. And once again, just so you know, your comfort zone equals your broke zone. You got to get uncomfortable. You got to ask yourself, am I doing this the right way? And I'll tell you how to know if you're doing it the right way. All right. This is how you're going to feel. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel stressed out. You're going to feel like, what the heck? All these people are hitting my line and they, expect me to have the answer to their problems. And those are all natural symptoms of growth. That's how you know you're stretching yourself. That's how you know that you're improving because now you're getting all this additional stimuli from your environment that is bringing you to a different level, right? It's not about necessarily how much you can handle in terms of shouldering the load. It's how much can you increase your ability to shoulder the load. It's the number one concept of, weight training. We call it progressive overload. You lift a weight that you can't possibly lift any heavier for a certain number of reps, whether it's 6, 8, 10, whatever, and then you add a little bit of weight. It's the exact same thing with the business. It's the exact same thing with trading. All right. So, in terms of designing a structured daily schedule, from the top here, you want to establish a fixed daily schedule in confluence with your goals. So, any of you that have been launched before, or you're on an onboarding call, what did your mentor, get from you in terms of information that you had shared with them? I want some engagement in the chat, and it's literally the next thing I'm going to say. So, y'all better be dialed. What is that one piece of information that your mentor gets from you on an onboarding call? Come on, I need some engagement. Otherwise, I'm going to answer some messages real quick. There we go. We got some thoughts here. Goals, yeah, obvious, right? Goals. Just need to make sure that y'all are paying attention. All right, so 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and yearly goals. All right, so these promote consistency and obviously efficient time management. So you can't hit a target that you're not aiming at. All right. Your goals are the destination, and Revolt systems, tools, and services are the directions that you punch into your GPS in order to arrive at your destination. The goals are the destination. And then, like I said, the tools, systems, services, mentorship that we have at our disposal within Revolt, that's going to be the directions that you're going to punch into your GPS so that you can get to your goals. So your calendar equals your paycheck. All right. When you're an IBO, and IBO means independent business owner, you don't have a boss. Your calendar is your boss. All right. So this is where most people fail because 99% of people in society are programmed, it's in their paradigm for them to be told what to do from a superior, for them to be given orders by somebody else. And most people, it's funny because when they're building the business and improving their skill set of trading and becoming profitable, they come to this business with the same mentality as they do at their job. And if that's how you show up, if you show up casually, all right, you're going to be a casualty. You're going to be a casualty. You're going to be part of the percentage of people that don't make this happen. And by the way, that percentage of people is large because what's easy to do is also easy not to do. All right. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. Is scheduling your day in terms of your IPAs, your non-negotiables, your daily method of operation. In the sales world, we have SOP, your standard operating procedure, whatever acronym you want to use. If you're not properly dialing these in on a regular basis, are you expecting somebody else to do it for you? Nobody else is going to do it for you but yourself. And listen, this can seem like a lot of information. It can seem overwhelming. If you don't know where to start with setting up a schedule, determining what your DMOs are, your daily method of operation, determining what your non-negotiables are, if you're having trouble with that, reach out to your mentor. All right. Reach out to somebody that can give you that information. And they'll be gracious in helping you. So you have to reduce procrastination. A structured schedule helps minimize distractions and reduces procrastination effectively. You need to develop a do it now mentality of knocking items off your list one by one. And whatever you miss for the day that isn't a non negotiable, review your schedule at the end of every day and move it to the next day or a day where you can schedule it. If you're absolutely slammed the following day, like don't put something else on your plate, but make sure that it doesn't slip through the cracks because when you're doing a lot, when you're organizing events, when you're launching with a whole new system, when you're onboarding people, closing people, doing game plan calls, doing appointments and sit downs in the city, editing content, hiring videographers, booking Airbnbs, booking flights. That's a lot of stuff. Okay. And those are all things I do on a daily basis. And if I don't track them, if I don't measure them, good luck. I'm going to guarantee you I'm going to forget it. So that's a lifesaver for me. And it can be for you as well if you just implement that system. So moving forward, how to set measurable goals and track your KPIs. So you always want to set specific and measurable goals. So effective goals are clear, quantifiable, and have a defined timeline to ensure focus and maximum accountability. So, for example, a great goal is one that is still within your level of belief that you can achieve it, yet at the same time is big enough so that you need to improve and develop in order to reach your specified goal. So it's always better to aim high and barely miss than to aim too low and smash the target. All right. You want to have a goal that's worth getting out of bed for, a goal that fires you up. All right. And, pro tip for you all, your goals should all be written out in the form of affirmations. Y'all know what the two most powerful words in any dictionary are, no matter the language. The two most powerful words are I am. I am are two of the most powerful words in any dictionary because you are affirming who you are and you set your goals in the frame and context of them already being achieved. So, for example, if your goal is to scale your trading account to $200,000 by the end of 2026, whatever, you should write down on a Bristol board like I have. There's a bunch in the back of this room here. And I go down here every morning and I repeat these affirmations to myself the first 30 minutes of the day when my mind is the most susceptible to being, influenced subconsciously. So, for example, the way that you would say that goal is I'm so happy and grateful now that I have been able to achieve growing my trading account upwards of $200,000 of capital. I am so happy and grateful now. That's always how you want to frame it. And if you do that, guess what? You just put on your spiritual armor for the day and nothing's going to be able to knock you off of your flow because you set your anchor in the morning, you reminded yourself of your goals, and you basically framed it and set it to yourself in a manner that is already achieved. And you might feel silly doing this at first, but eventually you're going to believe what you're saying. All right. Because the first little while, you're like, yo, why am I just talking to myself? Like, am I going nuts? Like, no, you are talking to your subconscious mind. Because guess what? if you don't program and influence your own subconscious mind, then world star hip hop is going to, when you look at Instagram first thing in the morning and you see people fighting, BBC News or Fox News is going to feed you a bunch of garbage because the first thing you did in the morning was grab your phone and mindlessly scroll instead of influencing your subconscious mind with the life that you want, with the goals that you're going to achieve. All right. This is very, very nuanced, really a detailed thing, but it's extremely important and effective. So here are great tools and apps you can leverage to track personal and or team KPIs. Notion, Calendly / Setmore, whatever your scheduling link is. What's great about these is if you just send this to your team, they're going to book three-way calls for you. And also, it's going to send the Zoom link directly to yourself, them, and the prospect. So you know how everybody's always manually sending Zoom links? That can be a thing of the past if you have people just schedule things through your scheduling link. And here's another kind of high level tip. You can integrate your scheduling link into Zapier, which is basically like an AI automation scripting stack. It can code things into your different, apps that you're using. And you can make it so that every time a call was booked in Calendly or Setmore, a reminder is sent to your email, to your Telegram, whatever the case may be. And you can make it so that every single call that is booked goes in a Notion tab. All right. So this is something that is extremely effective, and it took me a long time to set up. I can't lie. Like I had to do some coding. Like I was like, yo, I am out of my wheelhouse here, but I'm going to figure it out. And I did finally figure it out. So it's something that's extremely effective because I always take notes for calls. I write down information about prospects. I write down informations about team members. And now I have it so that Zoom automatically gives me a meeting summary in AI. Of course, you need to be on premium for this, but it gives me an AI summary that I can put in Notion, or rather, it can get automated into the Notion tab. So those are really great tools and apps that you can use. I know I kind of went a little bit more in depth, but just wanted to plant that nugget with y'all. And how I even built that automation stack is basically I asked ChatGPT, which by the way, I have the premium version, highly recommended. You get the most recent machine learning, and it's the most advanced form of OpenAI that we have right now. But I talked to ChatGPT and I was like, hey, ask me a series of questions that are going to allow you to better understand my business model, our vision, our systems, our strategies, our current revenue. I basically got it to ask me all kinds of questions. It was like a series of 20 or 25 questions. And from that, I told it to give me an entire AI stack that would automate basically a lot of the tedious administration functions that I do. And that's exactly what it gave me. It took quite a bit of time, but that's a nugget of gold for you guys. And I highly recommend for you to do the same. I mean, JP, who's on the call right now, he did this as well, and it gave him a ton of clarity. So highly recommend that. All right. So here's another nugget of gold. This is more so for my leaders on the call, but this is the system that eliminates confusion and that will give you extreme clarity. All right. Based off the data you have, these are the questions that you must ask yourself. So remember, I was giving examples of KPIs, right? So calls booked, calls sat, deals closed, cold market DMs sent out, warm market DMs sent out. How many replies, did I execute on when answering messages in my inbox? All those are KPIs. All right. And if all of your team is tracking their KPIs, which is a system that I've been implementing with mine, going week to week when you guys check in, you're going to have the data. You're going to know where people are weak. You're going to know where people are strong. And when looking at the numbers, you need to ask yourself as a leader, right? As a leader, we always accept the blame and we give the credit away. All right. Accept the blame and give the credit away. If somebody isn't producing the results that you want them to produce, it's probably mostly because of them. But as a leader, all right, you need to have something called extreme self accountability. There's actually a really good book by somebody who was a Marine and a Navy SEAL. His name's Jocko Willink. And he wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. And it's the concept that everything that happens to you in your life, whether it's direct or indirect, is your fault. Everything is your fault. And what does this do? What does this change and shift in your mindset? It gives you extreme power. You are no longer a victim to circumstance. You are no longer a victim of the government or your school or poor parenting, whatever the excuses that you make for yourself, whatever pity party that you throw for yourself. Guess what? It's not nobody else's fault but yourself that you're not where you want to be. And that might sting at first, but on the other side of that sting is extreme clarity, because even when something isn't directly your fault, or you're not, you didn't necessarily commit the error, you can always take accountability in everything, and through that you're going to become infinitely better than somebody that passes the buck and passes blame. All right, so you need to ask yourself, what could I have done better at? What could I have done more of in order to improve my own personal production? Always start with personal production and then move on to team production. What could I have done better at? What could I have done more of? Excuse me, in order to improve my team's production? Questions you always need to be asking yourself. And also, what were my 3 biggest wins of the week? What lessons and wisdom can be extracted from these experiences? What were the team's 3 biggest wins of the week? What lessons and wisdom can be extracted from these experiences? Who has made the decision to go all in this week and has turned things up a notch? Focus on developing these people. All right. As I said before earlier on the call, mentorship is something that always must be earned. All right. It's a privilege, not a human right. All right. Mentorship is absolutely a privilege that must be earned. And you earn mentorship by putting in the work and separating yourself from the pack. So here are some examples of KPIs that are tracked. I just shared like all of these a second ago, but we'll try to touch on some I didn't mention. So one that I didn't mention is sales revenue. This one's actually really good. So for total sales revenue, if you actually look at the numbers, like this really is one of the numbers that's going to paint really the majority of the picture. All right. At the end of the day, we're in a community. We have fun. We build relationships with each other. We chat about life, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, we're a business. All right. And what is a business's number one goal? It's to grow. It's to grow. And by extension, when the business is growing, everybody's going to get paid as a result, whether it's through the trade ideas, the scanners, services, or new tools and systems that we launch for you guys. Whenever the business is winning and growing, everybody wins as a result. All right. So that's a really important metric to track. And here's another nugget of gold for y'all. All right. Track your own personal KPIs throughout the week and send it to your mentor every Sunday evening to receive tailored feedback, advice, and next steps. All right. We said mentorship's earned, not given. How much do you think you're going to set yourself apart from everybody else when you're doing something that next to nobody does? If you actually track your own personal KPIs, number one, is for yourself. But number two, your mentor is really going to want to work with you. You're serious. You're dialed. You're tracking things. You're obviously following a system. All right. So that's a pro tip right there. And I encourage all of you to do it and see what kind of response you get from the person that you've been working with. So once again, I'm just going to hammer this point home. You must know the score. Hope is not a strategy. All right. Vibes is not a strategy. All right. You can't just be nonchalant with something as serious as your goals and your vision. All right. Without knowing your numbers, your overall vision, or having clear-cut systems that are proven, You are aimlessly wandering through life and running your business like a chicken with their head cut off. Once again, you're going nowhere fast because direction's always more important than speed. All right. Direction will always be more important. You got to be intentional with your time because it's your most valuable resource after all. And you got to plan your work and then work your plan. Anything less equals planning for failure or for someone else to plan out your life for you. All right. Because guess what? If you don't have a plan, someone has a plan for your life. All right. And you know what they have planned for you? Not much. They plan for you to work your tail off. And if they're lucky, you work so hard and produce so much income from their business while not seeing any yourself because you're an employee getting paid minimum wage or $30 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever the case may be. I want to share something with you guys. There's no dollar amount that someone could ever pay you for your time that's worth it. There's no dollar amount that anybody could ever pay you for your time that's worth it. I don't care if it's $500, $1,000, $20 an hour. Your time is your most valuable resource. All right. So never allow someone else to create a plan for your life because you were too lazy and lack the vision and lack the ambition and lack the testicular fortitude to plan a clear vision for your life. All right. So clarity is king. You cannot optimize, scale, and improve the results that you already have without referencing the data and improving in the key areas that the data reveals to you, and to double down on strategies that will help the overall growth of the business and the organization. And this last part is worth its weight in gold in terms of, the impact and the significance of it. If you treat this like a business, it's going to pay you like one. This business pays me like a business. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because I hope that it paid me like a business? Hope is not a strategy, man. It's because I was an intentional. I put in the work. I figured out what worked, what didn't work, and I focused on what was effective. And this is one of the things for me that was extremely effective. Having IPAs, tracking KPIs, having non-negotiables that I am rigid and almost militant about. That's what made a difference for me. And if you treat this like a business, it's going to pay you like one. And if you treat this like a hobby, it's going to cost you like one. We all got enough hobbies. All right. Who here is trying to get paid? If you're trying to get paid and actually implement this information so that you can grow your business, grow yourself, grow your trading accounts, go ahead and drop a 111 in the chat so I know who I'm talking to. And moving forward, accountability systems is major. So you can have accountability partners. This can be iMessage Leadership Core group chats. I have one for my Calgary Leadership Core. I have one for my core on the East Coast. And basically what we do in these chats is we meet up on a weekly basis. And what do you think we go over? We go over KPIs. We go over strategy. We go over what's been working, what's not been working. And we make adjustments week to week so that we can optimize our business and all experience the results that we're looking for. So these are what would come down to, obviously, performance reviews. All right. And moving forward, I'm going to touch on the Pareto principle real quick. I know we're getting a bit long-winded here, but bear with me. Should be another 5 minutes or so. And by the way, there's a bunch of book recommendations at the end of the call that are super valuable. So if you hop off early, you're going to really miss all the sauce. So stick with me till the end and you'll get that in due time. So most of you are familiar with the Pareto principle. 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts that you have. Focusing attention on high impact tasks is going to maximize productivity. And for yourself, like I mentioned earlier, you need to determine what these 20% of activities are for you and double down on them with intentionality every single freaking day. Every single day. Focus on critical tasks. So identifying and prioritizing critical tasks helps improve efficiency and achieve better outcomes in daily operations. And this is a major nugget right here. You want to delegate low/high priority tasks to those whom you can trust to get it done. All right. If a leader delegates to you, it means that they really trust you. All right. If a leader delegates to you, they ask you to make a flyer. They ask you to, go ahead and drop that, the call is starting in 10 minutes. They delegate to you in one way or another. It means that they trust you, because this is the mentality that I have. If you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. That's always my mentality, right? So whenever I delegate to someone, it means I truly trust them. Because if I delegate to somebody and they don't deliver on what I shared with them, I'm never going to delegate to that person ever again. Because this isn't a business to me. This is a hobby. This is my livelihood. This is the livelihood of many other people that are looking to me as the leader to bring them to the promised land. And who would I be to let somebody take on a task and to do it halfway, to do it not until completion? All right. So if I delegate to you, it's because I trust you, and don't take that for granted, because it won't happen again if you do. So one more thing, you want to leverage tools and technology efficiently. So I just touched on all of these. You can take a screenshot of this: ManyChat, Notion, Zapier, etc. Metricool is a great tool that can actually schedule your social media posts at a later date or time. This is really effective. I've been playing around with this recently. Highly recommend for all of you. And for project management, there's obviously Notion. Go High Level is another CRM in the high ticket sales world that's really effective. A bit of a higher price point, but it's another tool, just so y'all know. There's also Slack, Telegram, WhatsApp, etc. Oh, and for your business too, and for trading, create specific albums for all of your apps within your home screen. So for trading, if you have TradingView, MetaTrader 5, Forex Factory, whatever the case is, put it all in the same album. Stay organized. It's going to make you way more efficient, and it's going to save yourself a lot of time too. So in terms of personal development, yeah, I already touched on all of this. So yeah, I'm not going to be redundant with it, but this is something that's really important I want to touch on. Daily reading expands knowledge and fosters continuous learning for personal growth. So leaders are almost always readers. All right. Leaders are almost always readers. Don't allow great to be the enemy of good. If you have trouble making time to sit down and read, listen to audiobooks while you're on the go. I haven't listened to music in my car for years and years and years. Maybe after finishing an audiobook, I'll put on a song. You got to have your protein first before you eat your candy. And music is candy. All right. It's not what's going to actually help you grow. Like, it's just a lot of this music too is garbage. There's certain frequencies that this music is produced with that is made to lower your vibration, is made to make you feel depressed, to make you feel sad. Even if it's upbeat and it's like lit and you think it's a good song, it's probably lowering your frequency. So you need to be aware of that. And you can never go wrong just listening to personal development. You want to turn your car into a mobile university instead of listening to music that lowers your frequency, of course, like 99% of people. And remember, spaced repetition over time is indeed the father of all mastery, and the mother of all skill. So Bruce Lee said this quote: "I fear not the man that has practiced 10,000 strikes once. However, I do fear the man that has practiced one strike 10,000 times." All right. Focus on a few key skills and dial in on those freaking skills. All right. Whether it be sales, leadership, trading, whatever the case may be. Like, you look at a JP and a Donnie, they chose their skills. You look at me and Tommy, we chose ours. And why do you think we're so effective at what we do? Because we didn't try to learn 10,000 different strikes. We just became effective with practicing a few different strikes 10,000 times. And y'all want to know how many sales calls I've been on? Thousands. Thousands at this point. It takes reps. It takes reps. That's all it is at the end of the day, is repetition. Repetition. How many times do you think Michael Jordan or Kobe shot free throws? It's got to be millions and tens of millions of times. What was their career, completion percentage for free throws? Damn near 80, 90% because of the repetition. So I want to leave y'all with this relevant book recommendations. This ties into all the things that we discussed today. So The Power of One More by Ed Mylett, extremely good book. I've listened to it multiple times now. Your Next Five Moves by PBD, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey, Million Dollar Habits by Brian Tracy, Time Management by Brian Tracy, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And these aren't just random books that are good in the personal development space. All of these books directly tie to what we spoke about today. All right. Psycho-Cybernetics, for example, was, Maxwell Maltz was a surgeon, and he saw that he would give people cosmetic surgery and it would vastly change their identities and how they looked at themselves just because they eliminated an insecurity, because they shifted their mindset. It really is an amazing listen, and I highly recommend it. The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. This is the original. This is the real Think and Grow Rich. All right. Think and Grow Rich, as you know it, the original book is doctored. This is the original book. All right. So I'm going to move on from this. Y'all take a screenshot, write them down, whatever the case may be. But these are all amazing, amazing books. And leaving the call tonight, I want y'all to structure your IPAs, prioritize them effectively, and commit to personal development on a daily basis. All right. And a question that I have for all of you are, what actionable steps are you going to implement this week from the info that you've received tonight? All right. Give it some thought, and go ahead and share it in the family chat, as well as your biggest takeaways from the call. All right. What's the biggest thing that you took away that you're going to implement this week or even tonight? All right. One of my mentors shared a quote with me that I'm going to share with you guys. Millionaires move fast. Billionaires, they move faster. All right. So move with speed, and we'll be able to go ahead and make it happen. So that's really all I had for y'all. I know it was pretty in depth, and we covered a lot of information, but I kind of want to just open up the floor. Who has questions? Drop it in the chat, or better yet, what I'm going to do, we'll end the recording here.